Welcome to the podcast Lighting the Educational Flame, created and produced by educator and author Mark Hoberman, owner and director of Grade Success Tutoring. The purpose of this program is to offer our listeners a variety of stories dealing with many interesting topics surrounding education. It is our hope that students and parents alike will benefit from the wide range of topics, including study skills, test prep, anti-bullying, sports, music, and more. We hope you enjoy our show, Lighting the Educational Flame.
Hello and welcome to the video podcast, Lighting the Educational Flame, brought to you by Great Success Education on the NETV network. I am Mark Hoberman and my co-host is Susan Brender. Susan's not with us today, but she'll be with us next time. Our guest today is John Jubilee, an expert in cellular health and best-selling author. John, welcome to Lighting the Educational Flame.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be here.
It's our pleasure. Can you tell us about your background and how you actually became involved in the health industry?
Yes, absolutely. But we have a lot in common. My first job right out of college was a school teacher. I was a school teacher at a private school, and I taught advanced level AP mathematics and phonics to 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
How's that for a combo?
I hope the AP mathematics wasn't to the 5-year-olds.
No.
Gotcha.
So, but just over my life's journey, Mark, I had a lot of health issues, and that drove me in a different direction, because I really was just seeking for, the definition of the word science is the search for the truth that is known. And I really was just seeking, what is the truth on how to actually get healthy? It just can't be as complicated as everybody tries to make it. And sure enough, I came upon a real breakthrough science of intercellular hydration. And, this science propelled me to create an 88-day scientific sequence of how people could get healthy at the cellular level. I experienced it myself and then ended up helping thousands of other people. But over that course of time, I always stayed connected in my community. I was a 20-year high school football coach and a basketball coach. I always loved working with students, and, I love those bright minds and, how they're always, intrigued to learn. And so I've kind of had a very varied background, but all to deal with inspiring people and through educating in one form or another.
Gotcha. Excellent. We lost Susan for a little bit, so that's okay. She may pop in later and do a guest appearance, but I've got the questions anyway, so we're all good. What is cellular health? I never really know that I've heard that term before. I've heard cellular, I've heard health, but I haven't heard them together.
Yeah, well, if you can just imagine, and I don't know if you could see this or not in my little Zoom camera, but this is like a flat glass marble.
Okay.
And Mark, that's what an unhealthy cell looks like. So just imagine, no matter how much water we would pour on this glass hard marble, how much would get in? Zero, right?
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. It all just bounces off. And so that's what I learned when I discovered this breakthrough science of intercellular hydration. I realized that, through stress and unhealthy chemical reactions in our body and cortisol, our cells become hard like glass. And so even though everyone knows to drink more water, none of the water is actually getting inside the cell. And so intercellular hydration and cellular health is produced through making the cell porous like a sponge. And when the cell becomes porous like a sponge, it does 3 amazing things. So number one, it releases the bad things that are trapped inside the cell, which is inflammation and toxins. So those all get released out of the cell. And then the healthy hydration gets inside the cell. And that causes like 200 to 300 mitochondria to come to life, like Lazarus from the dead, like little thermonuclear power plants. And they all start firing. And that causes organs and arteries and all the things in our body to regenerate and to transform.
Wow. And what is your science background? Because, I feel like I'm in a science class at a lecture hall back in college. This is very interesting, but you learned this as you went along, or, I know you said you did AP mathematics, so obviously you have the ability to think in those terms. I'm an English teacher, so, you lost me at what's this marble, but what background did you have that made you able to internalize this and then bring it out to other people?
Well, interestingly, Mark, I can take no credit for my intellect. I was just born with a God-given gift. You know, when I was in about third grade, I read an encyclopedia in the school library, and then I stood up in front of my class and, you know, quoted like 3 or 4 pages of it. And my teacher said, "Oh my gosh, you have a photographic memory."
Right, yep.
And then when I got to algebra class, you know, I just I got accused of cheating because I you know, did a test in like 60 seconds, and I could just look at an equation and just say, oh, that's a to the third minus x squared.
Right.
So my brain just simplifies complex things. It skips all the steps. So, you know, I just did all this research because I really was looking to solve my own health issues. You know, I was actually a very successful, a high-level banker and innovated a lot of things in the banking world, worked for one of the biggest banks in the world. And, you know, and I love my banking career, but I realized, you know, later in life, because of, I always give credit to Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey has about 12 million radio listeners, but Dave sat me down one day and said, "John, you have to go full-time in health and wellness." He said, "You're going to change the world." He said, "Nobody can do what you can do." You know, because I had thousands of people in Dave's community that, you know, reversed their diabetes, their high blood pressure, Hashimoto's, Crohn's disease, all these serious things. And cool side effect, Mark, people would lose all their fat.
Right.
So it's a really good side effect to have, right? Most
Absolutely.
things, side effects are bad.
Right, right.
But this was a good one.
Well, it sounds totally natural, but can I ask what your issue was, your health issue? Was it being overweight? Was it a stomach thing? What was going on with you?
Yeah, so for me, you know, being a banker and just being in all those meetings and all of those, you know, lunch meetings, breakfast meetings, dinner meetings,
Well,
I
yep.
look like I swallowed a truck tire. So I have a little bit of a weight issue going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, thankfully, as a banker, you always wear suits, you know, so that'll
Right.
cover 40 pounds of fat real, you know, pretty
Real
good.
fast.
But my biggest 2 issues were I had high blood pressure and I was bone on bone in my knees.
Ooh.
And so people used to affectionately call me Mr. Rice Krispie because I snapped, crackled, and popped every time I walked down a hallway.
Wow. Did you ever have any kind of knee surgery or anything for that?
Well, it's interesting you say that because, yeah, I was obviously told that the only thing that was going to help me was I was going to need 2 knee replacements. And of course, that was a horrifying thought. You know, I don't know if you know what happens in a knee replacement.
I do now because I have some friends who have had it like 2 or 3, and I don't like what I'm looking at.
No, that's like a garage project, right? They're kind of using saws and just cutting up.
Yes. Yep.
So I'm happy to tell you that that was 23 years ago. And I literally, in about 1 year, I regrew all my cartilage naturally in my knees. And so 23 years later, you know, for fun, because I go to a football stadium every weekend and I run to the top and I run back down for 1 hour. And I really do that as a celebration that I have knees and they work. And I never had to get a knee replacement.
That's great. That's great. But now the times we're in, what are your thoughts about how the pandemic's impacting people's health, both mentally and, of course, physically?
Yeah, well, you know, a fascinating thing, you know, first of all, in a strange way, you know, because it's taken me more than 2 decades of preaching a message that your health is your wealth, to try to get people to focus on their health and that there's only a few priceless things in this whole world. And one of them is our health. You know, if we could call Steve Jobs, you know, who built a huge, amazing company of Apple, and he made billions of dollars, and yet he died at half his age, you know, that he should have lived to. Because why? Because of his health. And so in the midst of the pandemic, I think we've all realized how important health is, because some interesting facts, you know, that your viewers may or may not know is that, you know, about 95% of all the deaths of the pandemic were people that were 30 pounds or more overweight and had an underlying health issue, diabetes, high blood pressure. And so the reality is, you know, healthy people, people that took care of themselves before the pandemic, can actually breathe easy, because even if they catch a virus, there's hundreds of viruses in the air every day of our life. Our body is so extraordinary, though it naturally takes a virus, builds an antibody, and we just go on with life. We don't even realize that, we were infected by a virus, because our body naturally, in the natural immune system, develops the antibody. And so most people, as you see, more than 99% of healthy people that get the virus, nothing happens to them different than getting a cold or a flu.
Sure. Definitely. And you bring me along to something. The information you're giving us is not what some doctors tell us. It's not what some politicians tell us. And, there's often a reluctance and pushback from people with regards to naturopaths and functional medicine doctors. I think it might be due to a lack of information, because I was one of those people. I have a naturopath, as do my two sons and my wife. My son has a very big science background, and it's done wonders for him in his stomach with stomach issues he's had. I've had some issues that I've been helped with also, but there is some pushback, because I think it's, I don't want to call it ignorance, that has a negative connotation, but it's definitely a lack of information. So can you weigh in on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really valid point. And I'll say it this way. I'm a pure scientist, and the definition of science is the search for the truth that is known. And Mark, I don't care what the truth is. I really don't. I just want to know what it is. Right. And then I want to share that truth with people. And so when I started helping people 23 years ago, the first 10 years I did this, I still was a full-time banker with a huge banking operation. But thankfully, I had such a great staff, it really ran itself. But I spent about 10 hours a day for 10 years for free helping people. So I had no ulterior motive. I just found out what worked, what reversed all of these symptoms that all these people were having. I learned that the body is an incredible self-healer when you just put it in a healthy state, homeostasis, of the body, to be in a healthy, at peace state, that it could reverse virtually anything that came into it. And so when I started having my first doctors, and a lot of them are very famous at this point, the physician of the last 4 U.S. presidents is my client, Dr. Sean Silvernagel, who has 1,100 doctors under him. They all started out the same way of what you're mentioning, Mark. They were so skeptical. And they said, John, what do you think you're going to teach us? And I said, well, maybe nothing. But why don't you try this for 4 weeks? And Dr. Silvernagel, who was a leading physician, MIT, Harvard, after 4 weeks, he signed up his wife, his 11, 9, and 7-year-old children. Mm-hmm. And by that point, we were on a first name basis. And I said, Sean, why in the world would you sign up your healthy, young, lean children? And he said, John, everyone in the world needs to know this pure science. And my kids are going to grow up with this knowledge. So I would encourage, any doctor that's had the normal medical school training, which a lot of your viewers may not realize, most physicians are trained by pharmaceutical representatives in med school. They're trained to treat a symptom. Right. And so the great thing is, that's great that they get some temporary relief, but cellular health goes to the root cause of the problem. What's actually causing the high blood pressure? What's actually causing the arthritis? What's actually, causing the Crohn's disease and allergies? Our body's not designed to be allergic to anything, in the world. That's something inside of us that's off when we're having an allergic reaction to something. So I love beautiful, beloved skeptics, and I now have hundreds of doctors that are my client. But Mark, they all became my client the hard way.
Right. That unlearn things, that unlearn certain things, and have open minds. So, with regards to COVID, what changes do you see down the road post-COVID with regards to health and fitness? So many gyms have closed, they're reopening slightly, but God willing, down the road, 6 months, a year, when things come back to whatever the new normal is, what do you see with regards to health and fitness in the industry?
Well, what I really see, and that's a fantastic question, by the way, but what I really see is I think it's brought a new level of awareness that people realize you better take care of yourself first. You better get your immune system super boosted, because if we can get a COVID-19 virus, guess what? There could be a COVID-20 and a COVID-21. This will not be the last virus that we face. As a nation, as a world, there'll be many more viruses come. The key is to have our bodies in a position that we've super boosted our immune system, that we make sure we don't have diabetes. We make sure we're not overweight, so that we're not one of the at-risk people when it comes. And so I really hope and believe that people will have a whole new focus of preventative, versus dealing with it after the fact.
Excellent. Very helpful. Yes, preventative, big deal. So I appreciate that. John, where can people learn more about you and what you do?
Well, we have a website, which is Energized Health, and they can type it in either way, by the way, Energize or Energized.
Okay.
We got them both.
Great.
They could also just Google John Jubilee and they could get to us, whatever's easier for them. And we've been around for 23 years doing, I can't believe I'm saying that.
Right, long time.
I'm 60. Yeah. I'm 60 years old.
Oh, you look good.
Well, thank you. Well, you get those cells healthy from the inside. It shows up on the outside.
I'm 58. You just ruined my week. I'm very depressed. What do you got for depression now? So that's wonderful. So they know where to go, energizedhealth.com or energizehealth.com, either one. So John, can't thank you enough for joining me today and sharing your expertise with our viewers. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that you came on.
Well, Mark, I appreciated it. And with your audience especially, I got to share one last tip for everybody, is our brains are 70% water. So think about the reason that you would never, jump into a swimming pool that a telephone pole live wire fell into, because you would get electrocuted, right?
Yep.
Because water conducts electricity. So the brain is filled with all these neurotransmitters and synapses that are firing all these electrical charges. So the more hydrated our brain is, the more powerful of an instrument that it is.
Right.
And Mark, do you know if we just lose 10%, just 10% hydration, half of our neurotransmitters and brain synapses don't work?
No.
That means most of us are working with half of what is really possible for us intellectually, and our logic, and our ability to deal with stress.
That's huge. That's huge.
And trauma. And that's why so many people are on, the psychotic medications of anti-anxiety, depression, all those things, is because they're just dehydrated in their brain. It creates a lot of stress when they only have half to work with. And there's just so many things that intercellular hydration, it is the breakthrough. It is the answer, that so many of, it's like a missing piece of a puzzle,
right?
That we just never had before.
Well, I believe knowledge is power. You just told our viewers so many things that we really didn't know before. Certainly I didn't know before. So thank you, John Jubilee, again for that. And to viewers, remember to reach out to us on social media. Look for Great Success on Facebook and Twitter. We would love to hear from you. And you can also find me, Mark Hoberman, on LinkedIn. Again, thanks to John Jubilee for being with me today. And viewers, don't forget to tune into our next podcast. This is Mark Hoberman thanking you for watching the podcast, Lighting the Educational Flame, on the Great Success Education channel on NETV. And have a great day. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Lighting the Educational Flame with Mark Hoberman. To contact Mark, email him at info@gradesuccess.com.